Welcome to Soul Rising. We're your hosts, Amy and Erin. We're two everyday mediums who are passionate about taking the woo-woo out of spirituality and bringing it down to earth. So put the kettle on, grab a chair, and join us.
Hey everyone!
Hello, it's so nice to see everybody again.
So nice to see you all on this busy week. Full moon energy.
Yes, oh, that's right too. It's also full moon.
Yeah.
That explains a lot.
Was feeling a lot about that. So we're here to give a little update about our spirit guide homework. So in the part 1, episode 14, we kind of asked everybody
to do a little homework yourself.
To do a little homework, and we decided to do some homework ourselves too. So we're going to give that update and then move into the second part of the spirit guide episode 15.
Woo!
Yeah. Did you want to start?
Yeah, I could. Well, yes, I can start. Okay. So I was just telling Amy that I did sit with it for a bit, but it's been such a wonky, I don't know how everybody else is feeling, but it's been such a wonky week. And maybe it is the full moon vibes, but it's been a bit busy. So I did try to sit with it a little bit. I definitely felt like, I know Amy, you felt like there's like 3 main ones. It's interesting how they showed it to me when I was just meditating on it. I didn't really see any faces. But that's okay. And I feel like it's part of the journey, and partly because Erin's like doing school stuff, so we don't want to distract her too much, because I think my guides know that I can go pretty far down the rabbit hole.
Yeah.
But I felt like I had 2 main guides, and then I definitely felt like I have Rachel, who feels, I'm going to say angel for lack of a better word, but definitely world, but definitely on a very, like, a different vibrations. They feel like they're on different frequencies. And so I definitely felt like I had her almost like the way she was showing it to me, like a triangle. So like she's like on the tip of the triangle, kind of holding things together, the glue. And then I have these other 2 main ones at the base. And now I definitely feel like I've got some other ones, but they're kind of at the back there. And they were definitely making me feel like sometimes they alternate, but like,
and I was gonna say that
they jump in and out, but the main ones are like almost like a triangle. So very similar. I got 3 spirit guides, but that's as far as I got with it. And I did feel like I possibly have, possibly have an Indigenous guide. Mostly because I felt drawn to going back to this book that I had bought, and it's, oh my gosh, what is it called? I'm like looking at it right now. Oh, that's right. The Winter We Danced.
right.
So I felt, and it's about the Idle No More movement, the history leading up to that movement, what's taking place with government, where they were then, where they are now. And so I just felt like reading more up on Indigenous history, because 1, I think it is important, but I just felt drawn to going back to that book. So that's what sort of makes me feel like there could be some, I have maybe 1 spirit guide who might have been Indigenous in a lifetime.
Amazing.
Yeah, but that's what I got. Yeah. And Amy, you have a really cool story though.
Yeah, so I did share it on the Instagram page for the listeners that aren't on Instagram or don't follow it. It's called Soul Rising Pod, in case you didn't know and you want to go follow it. But I shared a little quick story and a photo of something that happened the other day. So earlier in the week, I was spending some time, I think it was Sunday night, maybe. I spent some time setting my intention to connect to my spirit guides and asking for them to come through. And I very clearly felt like 3 distinct different as energies, different presence. Now I didn't pick up on like if they were at different frequencies. I just knew they were 3 separate beings. And I did feel, and it's similar to like when I connect to somebody in spirit, the same kind of feeling, like a presence. I did kind of have this clear knowing of there's 2 males and 1 female, without them like showing me their face or presenting themselves. It was just like a knowing that I knew that there was 2 males and 1 female. And that's where I left it on Sunday. Fast forward to later on that evening, like right after I had this experience, I picked up my phone and I got like a notification from like a buy and sell kind of group on Facebook in my neighborhood, which is odd anyways, because I normally wouldn't get that notification like pop up on my phone. It would maybe be in Facebook.
You would just like see it scrolling.
Phone,
yeah.
Right. So I'm just like, okay. So I click on it and it's this giant, like pretty big canvas painting. And it's a little abstract. And the colors are like purple and blue and very, the higher kind of chakra kind of colors and actually when I connect to my own energy, those are the colors that I see. And when other people have done readings for me, they often pick up that bluey purple as well. So that was interesting. So this painting is bluey purple and you can, in it, like I said, it's very abstract, but you can see from the back 3 bodies, like 3 shapes.
Yeah, it is like, Amy, you told me the story and my jaw hit the floor.
It was like, what? It's so clearly, and I felt like it was validation from my guides to say, yes, there are 3 of us. Here's a painting, like go get it, run and go get it. And then you can have this visual reminder of us all the time. So it was like $10, guys. Like it was.
You know what's so, can I say that this is really interesting because we've got this like 3 energy, which I mean, I don't know if it reminds you of just like the 3 points in a triangle. And then actually, I had, okay, keep talking. I'm going to find out. I'm going to give her a shout out too. Because I like saw a post opened up this morning and it was about the meaning behind triangle and somebody that, which is right.
That's very wild. But you know what's also interesting? When you were talking about this triangle shape, right? It reminded me of yesterday I put out on my own page, but I think I shared it in the Soul Rising Pod Instagram page in their stories. It was me giving a quick little spirit story, but also a little message from spirit. And it was in regards to something that's been on my mind a lot, but also that came up in the reading the day before. And in it, I talk about this trifecta, and the word trifecta kept coming up, which
that's true.
It's the same thing. And I said it 3 or 4 times, and trifecta is not a word that I normally
3 or 4 times.
Right? So yeah, that stands out to me as well. So there's something there with that triangle message or that triangle image. So I'd love to hear what that person brought up about it as we go. Once you find it, let me know.
I will definitely. I feel so bad that I can't rember.
That's okay.
Her name right now. I couldn't remember the book that I'm reading. I can't remember.
Got a lot going on. That's okay. Last night, when I was brushing my teeth, I was asking a little bit more. Like, okay, come back to me. Give me some more. Like, give me a visual. Like, whatever you can give me.
Yeah.
I very clearly heard a male name come through, and it did absolutely make me smile.
Wow.
And I'll tell you why. So the name I heard was Matthew. Now, Matthew has been my favorite male name. Oh, yeah. What? Is yours Matthew? Tell me. What?
I'm going to kind of cry. What? Okay. Because, this is hitting home. Okay, so, because I had picked up on a Matthew.
But you?
Then, for me, but I didn't bring it up because for me, Matthew reminds me of, I used to work in I didn't work there, but I volunteered in a children's hospice, which was like really amazing. I'm so grateful for that opportunity, but I worked with a young man and I had gotten quite close with a Matthew there. And so when I think of Matthew coming in and my logical brain goes, oh no, my guide is not Matthew because Matthew is this boy, the young boy that I worked with. He's not my guide. But then you're bringing up a Matthew. And so it's kind of wild.
Maybe it's validation. Like, hey,
validation.
I am one of those ones that pops in occasionally. Yeah.
Oh,
Whoa,
ooh,
right?
yes.
So
Wow.
Matthew's always been my favorite boy name. In fact,
Mine too, actually.
really? Yeah.
Have we not talked about that?
We've never talked about this. And it's funny because I have two sons, neither of them are named Matthew. So it's just interesting. But when I was pregnant with my first child, I knew intuitively that she was a female, but we didn't find out until like 8 months that, actually we had an ultrasound and found out for sure. But
Yep.
I had two names picked out. One was my daughter's name that we named her, and the other was Matthew. And I was adamantly like, when I have a son, his name will be Matthew because it's my favorite name. And it's always just kind of something about the name had like this feeling of, it was familiar and comforting. And I didn't know why, because I didn't really have any friends named Matthew. I'm not related to anybody named Matthew to my knowledge. So it wasn't like a name in my lifetime. Sure, I had classmates named Matthew, but nobody that was like really close in my life. So but I was always this name, like, this is the name, this is the name. And similarly, like my daughter's name is Abigail. Now, Abigail was the name that I had chosen when I was a little kid. If I could ever change my name would be Abby. And whenever I had little dolls or would play, they'd always be Abby or Abigail. Fast forward to many years in the future, when I was actually pregnant with her, I was talking to my nanny, and she was so pleased when I said that I was going to name the baby Abigail. And she told me that it's such a strong family name in my grandfather's family tree, which I now know to be fact because I'm actually doing ancestry research. Okay. And Abigail was one of his, I can't remember who she was to him off the top of this moment, but in the family. He also had an aunt named Amy who passed away around like in her late 30s or 40s. And so my grandfather kind of suggested the name Abigail to my parents. This is the understanding I have from talking to my grandmother. And my parents chose Amy instead. But when I started to do my ancestry research on my grandfather's side, in every generation, for 6 generations, there is an Amy and Abigail in the same family, and they switch between sisters and mother and daughter. And that blows my freaking mind. And I had no idea of that when I chose her name, right? So I very much feel like that was coming through to me intuitively from like a past connection. And now I feel like Matthew, my arm hairs are standing up. Now I feel like Matthew also is that kind of connection, not necessarily through the family, but through my spirit guide. So he gave me Matthew really clearly. This is my name. And he felt kind of, I know that he had some sort of like hood on, some sort of like cloak perhaps, because he had a hood on, but his face wasn't in the shadow. I did kind of get a general glimpse. He felt like a solid guy. Okay, so he felt like he had some muscle like in his face. He felt a bit like solid. And yeah, he just felt very like, I am, like when you think of like a prince or like your savior, and he's like gonna come in and swoop you up. Like it gave me that kind of energy. Like I am here for you. And that was amazing. And then I very briefly connected to the female, and I got the name Lila. Oh. That came out of nowhere. I have no association with Lila whatsoever, but I hear it so clearly. And I also am associating her with the color purple as well. So that's interesting because that painting was purple. Just like a very sweet, it's very interesting because their two personalities are so opposite. And I feel like I have that duality within me, like very kind of quiet and soft and like,
but once you get to know Amy,
and then there's more of the like, right? Like there's both sides, and it's just very interesting because I felt like he was here to really kind of take me out of my shell, show me my power, help me along my path of standing firmly in the knowledge that I'm a leader, because I hear that all the time. Yeah, you're a leader, you're a leader, you're a leader, stand tall. And then she's kind of the more soft inner child. Let me help you with this.
Oh, goosebumps.
Listen. Yeah. So that's what I got. And it felt amazingly truthful, like in my bones. I know some people can be like, well, like, am I making this up? Like when you're trying to connect to your own stuff, it's your brain is going to.
Well, like I was telling you, I shut it down too. And we do this right?
Yeah.
I shut down the Matthew thing.
Because there's no way to validate that really. That's the thing. Like when we're connecting to somebody's past loved one and they're giving us specifics, it's validated in the moment because the person's like, yeah, like that's what they look like, that's what they did. But I also feel very strongly like we shouldn't become super attached to validation. We don't need it.
It's true.
We don't need
very
it.
True.
It's nice to have because then it kind of, our ego, our human side is like, see, I was right, you know, like, and it helps you become more confident in trusting in your abilities, but you don't need it. So when
you don't need it, and sometimes it doesn't come in that clearly, right?
Absolutely.
For people.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was trying to remember that because I was always told, try not to worry about, you know, validation so much or proving to somebody because you're going to get the messages that need to come through for that person in the moment.
You don't need to prove anything. That's something that I had to learn too.
Yeah.
Just be open.
She's a spiritual mentor and healer.
Yeah.
And her name is, she goes by Mrs. Betty Lazinski on Instagram.
Oh, okay. I do follow her. Okay.
Yes. And so she posted about unity. I hope it's okay. I'm giving her a shout out. Really sweet. And she talked about unity and consciousness. And there's this, I don't know if you can see. Oh, that's somebody else. I don't know where it went.
See unity and then it clicked down to somebody else.
Anyways, but she posted the triangle. Now it's gone. I can't find it. But
okay. So what was it? Consciousness?
Here, I have it back up here. Unity. Okay. Consciousness. And she said I'll just read the post. It's channeling codes from spirit. She says, I've got this download when I was in meditation. Spirit showed me these codes and I wanted to share to the collective. The message is to raise our consciousness and to bring back the unity in humanity. A golden triangle represents enlightenment and higher perspective. As our spirituality grows, it will lead us to a higher state of being.
So perfect, because that's clearly what our spirit guides are here to help us with.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting that they come in that triangle. They give us that 3-pointer, right? Like as a visual.
That like Matthew thing just sort of blows my mind too.
Yeah. You know, I've connected to people before. I've done one is standing out in particular. This one reading I did, I don't know, over a year ago, maybe a year and a half ago. Mm-hmm. It was intuitive guidance. So we're connecting to her energy. And at the beginning, I was bringing forth like different bits and bobs of like evidence of things in her life, which is what I always do. And then we build upon it. And I don't always connect to somebody's guides unless they like ask, hey, can you see who my guides are?
Yeah.
But more often than not, like, I don't connect to them. Once in a while, the one will just randomly come in.
One will come in, yeah.
And this one came in and I described him. You know, he has red hair, like fiery hair. And I described him and I gave the name. I'm sorry, spirit guide. I cannot remember his name. I think it might be something like Daniel, but I can't remember at the top of my head. And I described him and she kind of got very teary-eyed in the moment. And I was like, what? And she had gone through, you know, quite a hard time the years leading up to this. And she had this friend of hers had fiery red hair and had the same name. And she always viewed him as like, you're my angel. Like you are absolutely here to help me. And he helped her so much get out of a rough time and described his name.
Beautiful.
Name,
right?
That's
beautiful.
And so when you bring forth Matthew, I'm like, I would not be surprised if maybe you do have a spirit guide named Matthew and maybe it has connected to this Matthew, you know, or maybe it's just like, I don't know, a representation of something
right? Of that time too, because I learned a lot from him as well.
Yeah. How beautiful. That's really,
so beautiful.
Really beautiful.
Yeah, I on a totally different note, I've always loved the name Matthew because all of the Matthews.
Gables? Oh, I was going to say Anna Green Gables because I love Matthew from Anna Green Gables too. Yeah.
Yes, but because almost always all of the Matthews that I have worked with are little shits, but they're so lovable and so sweet.
Yeah.
That you just like you just can't help but just
love
feel
them.
Love them. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just so interesting because some people will say, well, like I've had people go, okay, like I know that you have it picked out if Abby was a boy, but like then you had two boys. Why didn't you name either of them Matthew? And the interesting thing is, and I think I shared this before, but I really and truly feel like all of my children named themselves.
Yeah.
So I dreamt of their names.
Yeah.
And once I dreamt it, it felt like clear knowing, like this is their name. So it's not up to me to change the name because that's their name. And I felt that strongly about it. And both of their names were not names that I necessarily had on my radar before.
Yeah.
But there was no arguing with me. Like even I said to my husband, I'm sorry, like, but these are their names.
These have to be their, yeah.
Thankfully
Yeah.
he was on board with it, but I was just like, I can't name one of them Matthew because their name is not Matthew.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's so interesting, isn't it? Yeah. Just quickly before we go, I wanted to share that like a kind of an insight I had from my guides as well the other day. So Erin and I talk a lot about, I think we just recently talked about how I think that we both agree. I can speak for myself absolutely though, that I think that we all channel at different times, you know, when we're doing something.
Yeah.
And this thought I had kind of pop in my download, I think from Matthew, was that, you know, our guides have through their own lived experiences, you know, when they were not the angelic beings like Rachel, but perhaps ones that lived lives like Matthew, I think did, have their own kind of skill sets and things they're really good at. Yeah. And that he kind of made me feel that they purposely, you purposely come together in a life with that guide helping you in a specific way, and almost like you're channeling from them. Mm-hmm. So, you know, if there's a guide that like, you know, was really a wonderful writer, and then in your life, you're like, feel passionate about writing, or you just love it, or somebody says you're a really good writer, and then you get into the zone and you're writing, like he's helping you with it.
It's
and
like,
I really like, yeah,
clearing
I like that
the, too. Yeah, you're, it's like a good way to describe it, because it feels like they're clearing the channel.
Yes. And yeah, exactly.
They're like they're aligning with you. It's like, you know, when you plug in, you know, or you switch on the light, right? It's almost like that current connects and the light comes on.
Absolutely. It's like the perfect blending, because so when you're doing what you're really aligned with, this is what I talked about in that message yesterday when we talked about the trifecta. It was kind of like when you like things in your life that you're drawn to or continually show up in your life, right? That's one piece of the puzzle, the trifecta. And then we've got the things that, you know, you're probably really good at. It's probably really similar, connected to those things that you're being drawn to, or other people are nudging you towards. And then the third piece of this trifecta was, it's not going to feel like work. You're going to feel like, wow, this feels great. It feels wonderful to do it. And once you've figured out what that is, you're like golden. Like this is the purpose, right? Yeah. And so I really feel like him giving me those messages kind of explains, maybe each guide like helps with each of those things, or
I think so,
comes in once in a while. But I just find it interesting that he kind of made me feel like, hey, when you're doing that thing, I'm right there, and I'm definitely helping you with this. I'm giving you what my knowledge too.
Yes.
Yeah,
I agree with that. I do. I know there's some mediums who might disagree, or there's a lot of different theories, right? But again, I think our beliefs are aligned, and so I feel like that's just our truth.
Yeah. And I really love that. And it's not to like disempower you, the person who is creating or doing. It's just like almost
it's your little assistant. Yeah,
it's an assistant, right? It's your little co-pilot over there, just helping out a little bit. We all need a little help sometimes. Yes. That's what your guides are here to do. They're not here to give you the roadmap and tell you what to do. They're here to say, hey, I'm here when you need me.
Yes. And that's a big thing too, because I also feel like there's truth in it that we have to ask for their help. They can't always come in unless we, because of free will, unless we like ask for that.
Yes, I fully believe that too. And I think that maybe that's why maybe that's why we were led to do this talk and talk about this, or why other people were asking us to talk about spirit guides, because they're there and they're ready and willing. And it's just like, teach the people that they just have to ask.
We're here. Yeah.
We are waiting. We're waiting.
You just have to push the button. Just push the button.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Erin.
Thank
you so much for sharing. This was wonderful.
Yeah. This was fun.
I hope you guys enjoy it.
Yes. Let us know what your experiences were as well.
We love it. We love to hear from you guys, like what you guys experience, or, you know, just different little bits. We love to hear it all. So thank you so much. Now we're going to let you listen to the continuation of part 2 of Spirit Guides.
Boom.
See you later, guys. Yeah. So spirit guide in general, we're talking about somebody that's like guiding you
and helping you out,
and it can be an ascended master, right? Like we talked about. An ascended master. So what I had jotted down was persons who lived many human lives. This definition was, and paid their karmic debt. And advanced beyond the need to reincarnate. So all of these people like Buddha, Jesus, they don't need to reincarnate anymore. They have learned their lessons. That comes back again to this book I'm reading about the Course in Miracles, the one about the disappearance of the universe, because they talk about how Jesus was the first. So he was a real, in this book, okay? Jesus was a real human being.
Yeah, he was.
And he was the first human being to realize that this was all a dream and he was a part of God.
Wow.
And so he doesn't need to reincarnate anymore because he learned it. So he can go back to source, right? Doesn't have, so he's an ascended master. And so essentially, you know, like Buddha, same thing. All of these people, other than maybe the extraterrestrial, were human beings who lived human lives and have learned their life lessons and now can move on to you know, returning to source. And so, you know, I wonder if what's your opinion about us archangels? Are they the same thing as ascended masters in your opinion?
You know what, I think this just comes back to,
wait a second,
and let me know what you think.
I'm gonna write down my thought.
I feel like this comes back to putting labels on things. For us to understand. To help us understand maybe the meaning behind these beings that have clearly been channeled through so many different people here on Earth, right? I feel like there's a lot of information that you can find out there and different opinions on different things. So I guess, I mean, the short answer is, I just feel like it's all connected. That being said, as soon as I say that, I feel like there's definitely different forms of consciousness. And I feel like maybe this is where the ascended masters might be on a different level of consciousness, whereas like angelic beings, I feel like have never lived human forms.
That's what I wrote down.
That's what you wrote down? Look at that.
I wrote down was, I said archangels were not human. I don't know if you can see it, but that's what came to me when I asked that question. My higher self was like, archangels were not human. Ascended masters were human beings.
Human beings. And so are our guides. Our guides. So are our guides. But there's different, right? Like,
I just wonder if maybe then our guides, you know, not speaking of past loved ones guides, but like our guides, like Rachel for you, then could you consider Rachel an ascended master? Like what makes one an ascended master? If the only definition is somebody that lived many human lives and now is connected to source, I wonder.
I don't think so, only because I'm putting Rachel in the angel box.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then like you Rachel has always been an angelic being and hasn't been a human. Okay.
I think so.
Yeah, like just intuitively that's what you feel. It's so interesting. There's so many layers to this.
It's tough, because I feel like, and also what keeps coming through is that we're, you know, if we really knew what how it worked, our brains would explode because we don't understand it.
Our brains can't, our human brain cannot comprehend it all.
Which is why we put things.
That's why we label things.
We label things.
That's like, you know, I was reading, like, again with this book, I'm going to come back to this book probably every episode while I'm reading it. I don't know. It's blowing my mind, but you know, that time and space is a, you know, it's part of our reality so that we can make sense of things.
Yes.
That maybe it doesn't exist. And that's because I always say there's no time or space there, right? No. Like when I'm connecting to a loved one, people will be like, how can you connect to me? And I'm in Australia. Well, there's no time or space. So they are like with you in energy, spirit, and with me at the same time.
And with me. Yeah. They're with your grandpa.
Time.
They're with, you know, they're all on the beach somewhere.
Yeah. Time and space is for us in this world for us to make sense of. That's a commonality I found almost in probably every book that speaks on this, or, you know, when I'm talking to other people that have an understanding of this, or, you know, have studied it or work with it, we all kind of say that same thing. So I do feel like that's truth.
I think there's truth in that.
At least.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, and I have to share, because I had such a cool, just because when you're talking about dreams and realities and all this stuff, and I had wanted to connect to one of my guides, and I remember saying this out loud, and I was like, I want to connect to one of my guides. Like, can you come through to me? I just kind of want to. And I had this like dream. Now, maybe, you know, somebody who could be maybe skeptical would say, oh, well, you wanted that to happen. But at the same time, I want to dream about my loved ones, but I don't remember them. Always. I don't always, right? And I don't always remember them. And this stuck out to me so clearly because when I was, just like you had said earlier, I was aware that I was dreaming. It was just a wild experience.
I said that off air. I'll bring it back up as you go.
Okay.
Yeah.
It was like watching a movie, and I'm aware that I'm dreaming. And in the movie, I can see myself, and I'm turning to this like blonde hair, blue-eyed, maybe blue-green, I don't know, like really interesting, like cool colored eyes being. And I turned to him and I said, must have also been like, maybe like 27 or 18, like young.
Yeah.
And I said, are you one of my spirit guides? And then all of a sudden it just stops. And almost like he's aware that I'm awake or that I'm aware of his presence. It turns to me and just flat, and said yes. And then just walked away. And I remember myself being like, wait, I have so many questions. And then I couldn't help it. It was like, I had no control anymore. The dream kept going and I was watching the movie. I had no control over it. And then it was like, and then I woke up and I was like, what? I've never had anything like that happen to me. And it was wild and I'm never going to forget it. And I just needed to share it.
Oh, I love
What did it make you think of? Because did you write down?
Oh, yeah. So when I was taking notes about different guides, so one thing I found online that I thought was interesting, and I do agree with it. I have had an experience with this, and you obviously had too, was specifically, it was called a dream guide. Okay.
Yes.
And so it's like, that you would encounter a guide in a dream, but be aware in the dream that it was a dream. And that's what makes it a dream guide. The awareness that I am
that I've dreamed. Yeah, I was going back to yeah.
Mm-hmm. And which is interesting because I think there's so many levels to this, because I was sharing off air that one of the first experiences I had that I can remember, you know, it was just with any sort of dream spiritual visitation that I remember was with my uncle. So this is a past loved one. So this makes me think that perhaps our past loved ones can also be dream guides, if the only, you know, discerning feature of that is that, you know, it's a dream.
Yeah.
Maybe, I don't know. But he came to me in a dream soon after he passed, like within 2 weeks after he passed. I was expecting my middle child at this time, very early in pregnancy, and he came to me. I knew it was a dream. So it wasn't like, you know, it was like, you know, sometimes we dream and it's like, you know, like
it's very real
about our day and we're doing stuff. And this dream, it was like pitch black. I can remember it so detailed, and it would be now 14 years ago. It was pitch black. And then it was just him, like his body, his form talking to me. But like knowing, okay, like this is a dream.
This is a dream. Yeah.
And he was telling me about how, you know, from his perspective, like what he was experiencing in spirit was that, you know, we all have, you know, lessons and things that we're meant to kind of learn in our lives, and that he, like, we don't get it. We have to do it over and over again. And he said, you know, and we can really choose who and what we want to come back as based on like how we think, how we see that coming to fruition. Like, okay, like, so I'm going to come back as me and my life because I can see the challenges that I may face, or the skills or the gifts I may have, and that all of those things, if they come together and work, will help me get closer to the end goal. And so that's what he explained this whole process was about. And yeah, so that was my first real visitation. And I feel like he was coming to me as a guide in that time, because he was sharing something with me. He was telling me something that was important for me to know. I often look back at that time and I was like, I feel that he, you know, it was almost like the beginning of my awakening in a sense, because life was never the same after that. I didn't necessarily know that I was a medium. We know that, like, it took another like 10 years after that. but I had a sense, I believed, and I knew it to be true for me. So I do feel like that was the beginning of the awakening, and also, I guess, what you would call a dream guide. So friends, if you have experienced that kind of same thing, we'd love to know, like, just an experience of knowing that you're dreaming about your dreaming, or that you're dreaming about dreaming.
Or if you've had any experiences with guides, or
love to know.
I would love to know.
I'm looking back. So we talked about just general and spirit guide, what that means to us. I also talked about ancestor spirit guides, or I was going to talk about them, which is different than your, I guess it's similar to like what we said about past loved ones, right?
Yes.
But I was reading about how in traditional African belief systems, like before Christianity came into play in Africa, that they it was regarded as like truth, like just part of their belief system. They would call them the living dead, and that they were actually their ancestors. There was a belief that they still lived on, right? They were still actively guiding and participating in their lives and in our lives, that they were still always there and would be spoken to, and they were held in higher regard than like living people. Like they were like, oh, you know, very well respected. And that was just their belief. I thought that was really, I think
it's beautiful. Well, I think a lot of, I have so many mixed feelings about religion. But I think there was a lot of things that maybe were taboo, right? Maybe when Christianity came to play, or as the years continued, were not taboo. All those, hundreds of whatever years ago, and that, or thousands, right? I even think of like the Druids and their belief system, right? And how they celebrated death. Anyways, that's a little off topic. Indigenous. Absolutely.
There's always been, if you look back at the history, of different cultures, there seems to always be, there's differences, but there's a similarity that there is a creator, or there is something more.
Source of.
And I also have always kind of had mixed feelings about religion. I'm open, so I have attended church, and anytime that I have attended church, though, I get extremely emotional. We might have talked about this before. I'm feeling all of the collective energy, I think. And so, but I've been really, really interested in learning more, though. And so A Course in Miracles is really like information about before Christianity, before the Old and the
Before.
New Testament
Yeah.
before.
Yeah.
So you guys might find that interesting, although let me tell you, it's a heavy read. You got to be ready for it. I've been
Take
told
it
many
in-
times that
Take it in chunks.
it chooses you. So when
Yeah.
you're ready, it will come to you.
Yeah.
It's a lot. It can really, all of these books that I've been reading lately they really break through like everything we've been taught, like all of our conditioning. So you
And
have
I love that.
you got to be ready for it though, right? Because otherwise
Yeah.
it's going to trigger you.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's okay to, I think it's okay to be triggered or have those
Yeah.
things affect you, but it's just having that awareness of, oh, you know, or maybe I have to stop now, or I have to do some self-reflection on this. because this is
Absolutely.
how
I
I'm
think
feeling
that's
right
what
now.
triggering in general is about. Okay. So I'm
Yeah.
reading something and it's stirring up like, because something I was reading a comment about, I think it was on Goodreads, somebody in a review about A Course in Miracles, and they said, I had to stop reading it because it made me depressed. Okay. And then she went on to say, I am so proud of my individualism and who I am, and that I am unique and have special skills and gifts. And this book is essentially telling us that we all are one and that we are not individuals.
Aw.
We're just in our dream, we are presenting as individuals, but like that mind is, and I was like, that's a very interesting take. I think
It
it's
is.
really intelligent to take that moment and go, I'm not ready to
do, yeah.
Obviously, if that's upsetting somebody like that, they're not ready for the material yet.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
there's no judgment, right? It's like,
No.
okay. And I don't know how I'm going to feel as I continue to go. It might do something like that to me. And I'd be like, oh, like, I don't like that.
Yeah.
But individuality is so promoted in our world.
Yeah.
So if we're reading something that's like, you're not actually an individual, you're all one person, you're all one thing, it's kind of like, that can be really challenging to accept. My mind is kind of like, what?
It's true. It's true. Or some of these, sometimes, maybe this is a little off topic, but sometimes I have all these like fears or anxieties or worries, or maybe about how people perceive me.
Yep.
And I'm like, but what makes me so important? Why does that, I'm not that important. That kind of comes in and I'm like, oh, that's true.
Yeah, and it's not like a self-deprecating thing. It's just
no,
it's more of the awareness that like maybe everybody feels that way.
Yeah.
So it maybe it's like pointing out that that trigger of feeling that way is maybe just like a perception and not actually the truth. Like maybe you could interpret it that way.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And that's, no, yeah. I just meant,
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, I agree with you. So, so we've talked about, just what a spirit guide is in general, how they can come to us, ancestral past loved ones, ascended masters, who are people that, have human lives and no longer need to reincarnate because they've learned everything they need to learn. I also wrote down that, there's this belief, well, you can let me know if you believe in it. I think that I believe in it, that our spirit guides are chosen by us before we reincarnate.
Oh.
I read that and it made me go, yeah, that feels right. Like that maybe there's a mutual agreement. Like if you're making a commitment to somebody for life, you're marrying somebody, okay?
Yes.
You choose each other kind of based on maybe common goals you have, common dreams, that you get along. Like there's a reason that you're coming together. So maybe spirit guides are like that for us.
Like coming to an agreement.
Like, okay, yeah. I could see this working.
Yes, I feel like that.
To you?
What was that? Something came through, but I forgot what it was. Maybe it just doesn't need to be said, but I feel like that, but also, oh, it's gone. I have no idea what I was going to say.
What's funny is that happens to me all the time, where I'm about to say something and then I like can't find the words, or it just leaves.
It just leaves.
And I was talking to somebody. This is like leading into information for a later episode in the next few weeks when we're going to talk about human design.
Oh yeah.
And
I'm excited.
So somebody told me, so I have this is off topic, but just keep it in your mind for the future.
I'll keep it in my back pocket.
I have an open throat center in human design. And so, your open centers can be thought of as your greatest gifts, because you really can do the closed centers are more like defined and consistent energy. Here is really where the open centers are, where you're here to learn.
Yeah.
And you can be the most influential, I believe. But anyhow, somebody said to me, do you have an open throat? Like when I had expressed this, like sometimes I trying to say something and I can't get the words out, or I say it and I don't think I said it right. And there's like almost like a hesitation for a split second.
Yeah.
It doesn't flow.
No.
And the person said, you have an open throat. And I said, yes, I do. And she said, so why don't you think about when something doesn't want to come easily and flow, that you're either not meant to speak about it or not meant to speak about it now. And that has helped me a lot, actually, because I used to try to force and go, no, just wait, it's going to come. It's going to come. And I'd like try to force it out. And now I'm just like, nope, I wasn't supposed to speak about it, or I don't have all the pieces yet.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I can't remember if you have an open throat or not, but we'll figure that out.
I don't know, but I think that's very helpful. Thank you.
I think it's helpful in general, even if you're not thinking about human design. I just think in general that it's probably helpful for most of us.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Because
it'll come back. It'll
talk
come
about
back.
It's just going to flow out, right?
It'll flow out.
And I think it's also important if you're like, somebody's asking you to make a decision or to give your thoughts about something, and you're like, well, and like things aren't coming out.
Yeah.
It's not time.
It's just not time for it.
Maybe just think about that rather than try to force something.
Yes.
This
is
why I love human design. Okay, this is why I'm geeking out on it.
I'm excited for when we talk about it, and I'm excited to read up on it more.
Yeah,
because I don't know a ton about it.
Yeah, I'm really excited about it too. I also wanted to give a little flip side too. So I was reading. There is this spiritualist medium and author from the past named E.W. Wallace. Not sure if this is male or female. I just got E.W. Wallace, spiritualist author and medium. And there was a quote by that person that said that, I want to say it's a he, so I'm just going to say he, that he felt that the concept, the idea of spirit guides was disempowering and disrespectful to both spirit and to the living. And I thought that was a really interesting concept, because he thought it would disempower us from, why do you need that? Why do you need that? Why do you need a guide? If you're spirit and you have, you're the same, you're spirit too, but in a human body. Why do you need that guide? Why would somebody need a guide? Right? Which is an interesting concept. And it's kind of like, if they've already learned all that stuff, then like, why are they spending their time coming down to help you? Now, I think I understand why they would want to help us.
Yeah.
Right?
For me, I can kind of, because I just sort of look at it as them as teachers.
They are, yeah. So I don't necessarily agree with this point of view.
Yeah, I would say that I don't agree with it, but I think it's interesting because I can kind of see, I can see how you would get there.
I can see the part about how it could be disempowering for a living person to place all their eggs in a spirit guide, so to speak.
Yeah.
Whereas you're like, I need it's the same thing as like when people come to us and they're like, give me all the answers. And we're like, I don't want you to rely on me for this. I want to guide you. And then I want to empower you to do it on your own. So I can see how somebody could, from that lens, think it might be a little disempowering if you think of that way.
Yeah.
But the other flip side of it, like that it would be disrespectful to spirit to come to us. No, I don't agree with that part.
Because when you say that, I just think about, well, if that is the case, then maybe we wouldn't be talking about spirit guides.
Right.
And we wouldn't be giving it, it goes back to giving thought, putting, like, intention is energy, and you're giving that power. Like, I don't think we would be talking about it as much as we are.
Why would they
And why would
and why would they come to us if they didn't want to?
It's like you go to class to learn. I'm going to school to learn.
Yeah.
My teachers are teachers because they want to teach.
Yeah.
We're teachers because we want to teach.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think
I agree.
Yeah.
To give that other flip side, because I like to give all sides.
Yeah. I have maybe I don't know if this is the time, but I keep thinking of like how people could possibly connect to spirit guides. I don't know if you have any.
What was on my brain.
That's what you were gonna say too.
Yeah, amazing.
I just gave Amy like a
say it after you
smile.
If you hadn't, I was going to be like, I'm going to bring it up because I also have, as promised, I'm going to try to do this later, or set my intention is a better word, not try, and report back next week. So yeah, that might be a really good way to wrap this part up before we do a little weekly guidance.
We could each do that. I'm going to go and we have some homework for us and our listeners or viewers.
Let's do that.
Yeah.
I like that a lot. Okay.
Oh, I like how this sort of morphed into this teachable moment. Learnable.
We set that intention though, like the story I put out yesterday. I think I tagged you and I was like, what do you guys want to know? Like, I want to teach you. Like, what do you want?
What is it?
That's the intention. Is like, so now it's like Spirit's like, okay, you want to be a teacher? Here you go. Here's the homework.
Here's the homework. I love that. I love that. Because I keep thinking of this, what I heard once upon a time on a podcast, and I'm so sorry because I can't remember what platform or who said this, but because I had tried it. So what I had heard once was you can talk to your guides and you can ask them for signs, just like you can ask your loved ones for signs. And what she said was, she took it a step further and she said, you can be specific. You can set a timeline. So I said, okay, Spirit, my guides, I'd like to try this. I want to build a relationship with you. I would like at the end, sometime within this week, to see a frog. And I think I've told you this story before. And I was like looking for frogs, and I was like, it's a very specific thing. It's winter. I'm in downtown Toronto. There's no, where am I going to see an actual frog?
Right. It's not in an environment with a lot of frogs. So it's an actual
Yeah. So I'm doing my usual walk. I have my little route that I go to run errands. And then on my way back, I take the same route and I see this card that I didn't see before. And this was at a point too where I was constantly, if I had seen a license plate that had like numbers that had meaning to me, I took that as like a hello from my guides as well.
Yep.
And so I see this license plate with a frog on it.
I think I know what license plate you see. Is it the one that has, it's almost like a tropical frog? Like, does it have another little color?
I can't remember, to be honest with you, but it literally was just like a sticker.
Oh, okay.
Almost like somebody had put like a sticker also of a frog, or there was a frog picture. Maybe it was a tropical frog picture that comes with license plates. I didn't know that was a thing.
Well, you can get a vanity plate, and you can get one that has like something on it that's important to you. Like if you were somebody that was like environmental or something about the rainforest. Like I'm sure you can get something.
You can get something like that.
Yeah.
So I thought, how funny is it? Because they know that I'm looking at license plates as like a hello from them with numbers specifically.
Yeah.
And I see this. And it was like a Friday, and I had asked probably the Monday, and I went, wow. Okay, hi. Like this is another time. Okay, this has just come through. So maybe we're going so over, and we'll probably.
I don't even know what time it is, so.
If you've made it this far and you're still listening, thank you for listening.
You had a lot to say today, obviously.
Yeah. This was years ago before I was even giving readings to people. And I had always felt like I was connected to the goddess Isis. That's another thing. I feel like goddesses.
It's in that book too, by the way.
I feel like they're part of the spirit guides that can come through for us.
Yeah.
Because even as a child, I was always drawn to Egyptian mythology. And anyways, so I had felt like she was with me. And I said, "Oh, I really need a sign. Like, can you just give me a knock?" And I was like, is this real? Am I going nuts? Like, can I do this? I think this was when I was trying to decide if I should do this work or not. And I kid you not, I heard the loudest knock come from my side table right next to the bed where I was. I'm not making that up. And I went, and of course, the human part of you was like, can you do it again? You get greedy. Yeah. And I thought, okay, well, I better, yes, this is real. And it was a loud knock. It wasn't gentle. It was like, wake up. That's what it felt like. Yeah. So
homework. Ask your spirit guides to give you a specific sign.
Yes. Give them a timeline.
Give them a timeline. Be patient, within that timeline. But something I will tell my clients too, like, because sometimes people ask, like, how do I know when my loved ones are around? It's the same kind of intention, whether or not we're trying to connect to spirit guides or to our loved ones. Mm-hmm. Spirit is spirit in a sense. So, I will say, like, you could ask for a ladybug. Okay. And some people will get really specific, like, okay, well, I need to see an actual living ladybug.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to just be that, right? So just keep your eyes peeled for somebody talking about a ladybug, like seeing it on a commercial, seeing it on a calendar, seeing it on somebody's earrings, like whatever it is, like keep your mind open to how
it will come through.
Yeah. Because it might be quite like literally impossible to have a ladybug show up on you in the winter in Canada, right? Or in so just keep that in mind too.
Yeah.
Does that sound good for you? I pulled a card to give
that sounds great. I'm excited.
And I was kind of laughing at one of the things in the guidebook. Do you want me to start?
Yeah.
So the card I felt guided to pull from the Moonology Oracle card deck. We've got the full moon in Scorpio. Okay. And this card is really about taking action. So it's interesting because we already talked about February kind of having this energize your bunny kind of energy. And so it was like, we literally said at the beginning, be intentional then. Like if the energy is already buzzing, then maybe it's time to get very intentional about how do I utilize this energy to serve me so I can like get my stuff done, right?
Yes.
So it's a take action card. And also it says focus on the bigger picture. So that kind of speaks to that too. So like use this energy accordingly. What do you have on the docket? What do you have to do? Think about big picture and then like run with it right now. The steps to get there, but like start right now is kind of how I felt. This is a card of like, it's okay to take a risk.
Yeah.
And have fun and count your blessings. But then the additional meanings for this card, this made me laugh because it said, find a balance between speaking your mind and saying too much.
Wow.
I was like, okay.
That's
right.
That's funny with the card that I pulled.
Pardon?
It's funny because of the card I pulled. But keep going.
Let's see.
Well, at first I didn't understand why this card was coming out, to be honest.
Does you?
And then you said the keyword balance, and I thought, oh,
there it is.
Funny. Yeah. There it is. Priestess of Disks. So I pulled from my Mother Peace Tarot. I think I pulled from this deck last time. Can't remember, but I just love this deck.
Sorry.
And I felt called to use it more and more these days. This was like the first deck that I started using. And this is about balance, and she is in a yoga pose. The Priestess of Disks here in this picture is in a yoga pose. She is looking after her child in the background. She's doing yoga, but she's meditating. She's outside in nature. So while this is going on, this is a card just about balance and being able to, I don't know, maybe handle everything that's sort of coming at you, because there's a lot that's going on in this picture. Yeah.
Big picture. It's almost like getting grounded in order to handle, like,
absolutely.
Maybe it's a nod to maybe this busy energy this month. Maybe for some of us, we're feeling a little bit disoriented by it. Because sometimes when the energy is busy, it's like, oh my God, I have to do all this stuff. I'm coughing, you're sneezing.
I've done this twice now. I'm so sorry. So people listening, they don't know what's going on, but if you've watched this,
It's always funny when somebody's trying to hold a sneeze in and their eyes are like, like it's trying to do it.
Sorry.
That's okay. No, it's just funny. So it feels like maybe this take action, take risks, big picture could feel a little bit overwhelming, maybe, or it might make you ungrounded a little bit. So finding balance is key. I think the balance thing I think that was just meant to make us laugh because that like exact line about find balance between too much and I don't know what it was, but speaking your mind. It's like, okay, we've gone over on the podcast because we're like giving a lot of information and sharing a lot of thoughts. And then also we just talked about the upper throat chakra. So I think it's a combination of both to make us laugh.
Spirits, yes.
That's another way that our own guides
come through.
Yeah. Those little kind of synchronicities. That's a really perfect example. It's like, I hear you. I know what you guys are talking about, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. That's amazing. So thanks for staying with us. If you listened to the whole thing, you deserve a virtual cookie. We'll send some online.
Yes. All the
post with some virtual cookies on it or something. We really appreciate you guys.
Yes, thank you so much.
We'll report back next week with some of our spirit guide, like what's happened,
what came through, and
if you guys want to share, we'll do so anonymously and just give examples of other people's.
You can reach out to either Amy or I on our social media platforms, so Soul Rising or Soul Work, WRK, or you can reach us on our Instagram or even at Facebook, right?
Any of those places will work.
And share your stories.
Yeah. And I kind of feel like next week I don't know if we've talked about spirit signs before, but I feel like maybe it's just a continuation in a way. Spirit signs were something that came up twice as well that people wanted us to talk about.
Yeah.
That's a continuation next week.
Yeah.
The following week is exciting. We will be recording with our friend Emily.
We have a guest.
Yeah, we have a guest again, Emily, and she is going to talk about tarot. Lovely. She's a professional tarot reader. So you guys don't want to miss that. And then maybe towards the end of the month or even the first week of March, we'll plan for that human design episode. Yeah, where we're just going to briefly talk about what human design is.
Yes.
And then I'm going to interpret Erin's chart.
Ooh, fun.
I'm not an expert, but I'm learning. So it's just kind of like to...
And I will be learning along with you because I know nothing about human design.
Yeah, we wanted to make it a bit interactive, so it wasn't just me spewing information the whole time. It was.
I'm going to try to read up on it and.
Yeah, just read a little bit. Just as long as you had a basic understanding, that's all you really need to know.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
Thank you, everyone. I hope you have a good weekend.
Bye.
If you like what you're hearing, don't forget to give us a 5-star review on Apple Podcast and tune in each week as we dish on all things spiritual.